Good morning. It is Sunday, June the 14th. Hope that you're doing well as we continue to move forward in our ongoing battle against COVID-19. We haven't shot videos for the past couple of weeks because we've wanted to just let some time pass to get a better handle on where we stand right now and to get a feel for how temperature is affecting what's going on. I want to take a moment to give you a quick rundown on the numbers locally, nationally, and globally, and just give you some perspective on maybe what you and I need to be doing right now. And let me just say at the outset, I realize there's a great deal of confusion in the country as to where we really stand, how severe is the disease, and what really is effective in combating this. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not wanting to offend anybody when I say this, but right now we've got to be very careful to be sure that we don't let politicians give us our cues for our behavior. There's no way around it. We are 4.5 months from a national election, and that is very much coloring what we're being told through the mouths of politicians and through the press. And I'm not blaming one side or the other. Quite honestly, Democrats right now want to make things look as bad and as bleak as they possibly can and then blame the president for everything that doesn't look good. And on the flip side of that, Republicans, because we have a Republican president, want to diminish how bad things are and try and make it look as rosy as possible and basically say to you, it's all fine, go back to work and return to your normal routine. It's all just fine. And the truth of the matter is neither of those messages are accurate, and you just don't need to be taking your cues from politicians in the midst of an election cycle. We need to be listening to voices who don't have a vested interest in the outcome of this situation. So a quick glance right now at where we stand today. It's mostly good news. If you look at things globally at the moment, we pretty much are at a stalemate with the disease. Over the course of the past 3 weeks, since the last time we did one of these videos, what we have seen is that the numbers have only increased in terms of the daily new confirmed cases by about 25%. It's about 125,000 new cases per day. But when you look at the death numbers, it's staying almost flatline. 3 weeks ago, it was 4,400 new cases per day. Today, it's about 4,300 new cases per day. And what that probably all means is it's just an increase in the number of tests that are being run. So we're probably, as people around the globe are taking steps to combat this, we're probably at about a flat line for the world. Now, in the United States, it looks like in terms of numbers of new cases that's staying pretty stable, but the reality is it's probably that we're making good progress, and the fact that the numbers are staying stable is a reflection of the fact that we're doing 3 times as much testing today as we were 2 months ago. And so we're seeing about 22,000 new cases confirmed in the U.S. per day right now. But the number of deaths today compared to just a couple of months ago, when it was at its peak, it was 2,000 per day. This week, it's about 775 per day. So that's about a 62% drop in the number of deaths. And that's probably a better reflection of just how much progress we've made in the United States. That's good news. Now, the truth of the matter is it's a more complex picture than that in the U.S. because many states have either kind of flatlined or they're making real progress in bringing down the number of cases and the number of hospitalizations. But in certain states, and unfortunately Alabama is one of the worst right now, we're seeing a real rise in the outbreak of the disease. And that's specifically the case right now in Alabama because over the course of the last 7 days, we have seen a 91% increase in the number of daily new confirmed cases over the previous week. We saw more than 4,500 new cases in the state of Alabama. That is not primarily the result of additional testing. That is truly an increase in the number of cases. Now, for those of us who live here in Baldwin County, the numbers have been very encouraging. They've stayed very low and very stable. Only in the last week have we begun to see that tick up. The previous week, we had seen 21 new cases here locally. In the past week, that number has been 57. So in terms of percentages, that's a big jump, but it's still not a huge numerical jump, but it's one we need to keep an eye on because it is starting to warm up here in terms of number of cases, and in the state, certainly rapidly ramping up. One of the main things I want to say to you today is we need to not become exhausted and discouraged because this is taking time for us to beat this thing. We are going to win this, but we're going to have to stay vigilant and do our part. It seems that across the country, the majority of people are staying aggressive and trying to combat this. They're doing the social distancing thing. They're wearing masks. They're taking the steps that they can take. Unfortunately, here where we live in Alabama and on the Gulf Coast, people, I don't know if we're just more stubborn or just more entrenched in our ways, but it seems like much of the collective response has just been, well, I'm just sick of this. I am done with battling COVID-19. And so people have just abandoned the whole idea of social distancing and wearing masks. And in many places, you can't even tell that there's a pandemic because no one's doing anything any differently. And I just want to tell you that that's a bad mistake. Someone has appropriately made the analogy. They said what we're watching right now in our area is the equivalent of someone who jumps out of an airplane at a high altitude and immediately they accelerate to a deadly pace as they're descending toward the earth, but then they pull the ripcord on their parachute. The parachute deploys, and very quickly their rate of descent slows to the point that they're now safely gliding back down to the earth, and they're able to say, well, we'll see, we're not in any real danger anymore. We're doing just fine. We're falling at a safe pace. And, this parachute, the harness is really kind of uncomfortable. I don't like wearing this, and I've had this on longer than I want to, and so I think I'm done with this now that we're not falling fast anymore. And so they go to take off the harness of the parachute. Well, we all realize what a horrible and foolish mistake that would be, but that's exactly what many people are doing. We put the brakes on whenever there were the lockdowns almost across the country and everybody began to do the social distancing and wearing of masks. But when people got tired of that and the governors began to say, we're going to have to ease off of the lockdowns, of course that wasn't going to be a permanent solution. People in some places, like here locally, read that as the signal that, well, we're done with this, and so they've just done away with their parachute in the form of, we don't wear masks anymore, we don't do social distancing anymore, we're just done with this. Well, it's a terribly foolish mistake. The truth of the matter is, we're seeing in numerous states and in numerous countries that where people continue to practice social distancing and the wearing of masks, they're getting way ahead of this disease. Even before the vaccine is out, they're really getting a handle on this, and we need to be careful to do the same thing. We're not going to have to do this long term, but for at least the next several months. There's a really good chance that a year from now, a vaccine is a major part of the solution to this problem. But until then, you and I can't afford to strip off the parachute. We're going to be in a world of hurt in a short span of time if we just go back to living like there's nothing significant that's taking place right now. Don't take the bait and believe the message that this is about politics. People have been trying to take advantage of this situation on both sides for political gain. This is not a political issue. Wearing a mask, not wearing a mask has nothing to do with who you support. It's about being smart, and it's about caring about the people around you. We do the things that we do more than anything else to protect the people who are around us. So particularly to those who are Christians, I would appeal to you to say, the Scriptures teach us clearly, take an interest not only in your own life, but in the lives of those around you. This is a great time to practice that by putting on a mask, practicing a little bit of self-discipline, a little bit of inconvenience for us over a span of just several months can result in the saving of a lot of lives. So let's each do our part. We will get through this. We'll get through it more quickly if we'll do our part now. I'm Mark Price, reminding you to stay safe, to stay the course, and to always remember that you are loved.